who, you know, they go into those jobs for that big paycheck. I've had to beg from people to buy my artwork so that I could have rent. I missed my rent by $100. Fortunately, did get a one-week temp job, which helped me get $200 for this month, but now my brother is helping me, who is older than I am and himself disabled. He had to help me with the other $200 for my rent. I'm exchanging a piece of artwork that I won in a raffle for it, but he doesn't have the $200. He's my brother, and I'm younger than him, so hopefully I'll make that big commission somewhere as an artist. That's what I am, an artist, and be able to support the family, but I don't see that happening, at least not today. But nobody should have to beg for money. Nobody should have to beg for money. Nobody should have to beg for anything. We are here to help each other. The people I've elected, the people that I've supported, the people who I've campaigned for. This last election, I walked all over Summit County with a group of other people, registering voters and talking to them about, Senator Brown was one of the people I was working for. Congressman Ryan, who I know well, is now my representative. You know, I know I'm kind of rambling, but it's just very frustrating. Nobody should be in this position now. I should not be in this position now. My father didn't fight in World War II to have people in the position like this now, where I have to go to an agency and beg for money so that I can make a rent payment to a landlord who's just trying to do right by his family and make money so that he can support his family so his kids can go to college. So I hope that all made sense.
Okay, next we have Gerald Gould, followed by Lucille Humphrey.
Hello, I'm Gerald Gould, and I'm here today. I would just like to thank Renee Green. I don't see her here today, but she invited me out today. I would just like to say that I'm just here to do my part in terms of how we help impact the community. I've been working in the community for a very long time, and so I really feel the pain that everyone is speaking about. I'm starting a company, myself and some other friends, to see if we can do our part. It's called Green Tech Ventures. And what Green Tech Ventures is a company that works with green technology and trying to bring green technology to the city of Akron. And right now, the project that we're hopefully close to consummating with the city is the Green Tech Electric Vehicle Center. And what that will do is, get people in our community trained on how to work on electric cars, basically. What is really special about that is that it was a federal grant through the Department of Transportation, and the city of Sacramento, California, Riverside, California, and Akron, which is us, was able to participate in that grant. And I feel really good about that because I think that the feds see our city and our region as viable. I think they really want to help us. I had an opportunity to meet with Ms. Fudge. Ginger set some things up for us. We really appreciate that, Ginger, and we had an opportunity to speak with their staff. What I call Beth, she's always there. You know, I don't care what the problem may be. Sometimes we can work it out, sometimes we can't. But I feel we have a friend in Senator Brown in Beth's town's office. And I haven't met Chris, but I do know Senator Tim Ryan. And so I really do feel good about the things that we're trying to do and what we're trying to bring to the city. So I just want to make people aware that we are there. We're going to continue to move forward and try to, bring as many jobs as we possibly can. We have a good network over in California. Silicon Valley. So we want to bring some of the latest and the greatest to our region and hopefully employ as many people as we possibly can. Thank you.
Okay, if Lucille Humphrey is not here, we'll go to Marie Curie, followed by, I hope I can read this, Darnita Davis. I'm not sure I can read it. Okay.
Hi, I'm Marie Curie. I'm a West Akron resident, and I have lived here for 16 years. And I'm really here today, and I'm so pleased and thrilled that you all took time today to be with us, to bear witness to how important these issues are in our community, and how important it is to lift up those in our community in need. My personal and professional focus is on health equity issues, and I've met some of you before in that context. The issue of health poverty is so entrenched in the issues of health inequity, are so entrenched in issues of poverty and violence and the economics. And several of our speakers have talked about the need for jobs and the need to focus on training and how we can really change the economy in our community in order to address these issues of inequality. And so I'm thinking about, okay, what can I ask my federal representatives for? What's my ask? What do I think is important? And so much of what we're struggling with in our state and in our community has to do with what's going on in Columbus, which is important, incredibly important. We're fighting for Medicaid expansion, or reform, or extension, or whatever we're calling it this week. And we have certainly having conversations about gun control locally and in our state house. But in terms of what is going on in Washington, I think that the issues about how do you help us continue to lift up economic improvement in our community. Federally funded training is a great idea. The gun control legislation that clearly has not moved forward is another area where gun violence in our neighborhoods is a critical issue. It's a critical, I think of it as a public health issue, but when I think about individual families that are impacted by that, that's just huge. And I also want to ask you to continue to lift up the Affordable Care Act. It's the implementation of the Affordable Care Act is a tremendous society-level improvement for people in our community in need. Thank you. And so we're talking about implementation, but also the public health fund that's part of that seems to be like the what's the drawer where you pull out, like the petty cash fund. It's like every time we need to cut something else to make everybody happy about the Affordable Care Act, we take out the public health fund. The public health fund is really important dollars for what we're doing in our communities. So I'm really asking you to resist that culture of fear, that culture of hate, that culture of difference, and lift up the culture of abundance, which we know we can create in our country, and to lift up the caring and the respect and the dignity that we want to be about as Americans. So thank you again for coming.
Next we have Frank Communale, followed by Gary Goodman and Herman Oden.
I don't need that. Just a couple quick thoughts. I'm Frank Communale. When we talk about a message, it's imperative that we control the words. Republicans talking about tax and spend. If we allow someone to take control of our message, Herman, we're probably going to fail. Brief history lesson A. 60 years ago, Brown versus Education. Seminal piece of legislation. Sure, it made Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896 go away. What was the genesis of that? Somebody named Alex Adams. Yeah, we should remember Alex. Couldn't go to the Y. Got to go to the Y, wound up going to Garfield High School, and arguably one of the 2-3 best athletes ever at the University of Akron. Because of work of people like Helen Arnold and Vern Olden and many others. We're in a world of a meritocracy. You think about it. Your grandchildren, the color barrier that Willie and some of us saw growing up in those days, they're slowly eroding. but we have to do work. Here's what we need to do, number one. We need to get involved in the political process. Now, obviously, I'm articulating to the choir, aren't I? Because all of you grasp the importance of voting. But what happens? As Democrats, those that I look out here, all of you work so hard in elections, we spend an inordinate amount of time in odd-year elections begging people to vote. All the cliches that are not cliches about how important your vote is, you need to tell people today that your vote is really powerful. This autumn we have school board elections coming up. You could not have an open, equitable society with a passion for education without free public education. I was smart enough to have a successful younger brother. My siblings, their children go to Catholic schools. They're great. But many people don't want to go to a parochial school, a private school. They want to go to a public school. And they should have that opportunity. So what can we do? Okay, number one, let's volunteer. Yeah, everybody here is volunteering. Why not decide 1 hour a week or 1 hour a month you're going to go to a public school in your neighborhood and read to a young man? The 100 black men. Why can't it be 1,000 black men? And why can't maybe the 100 black men challenge we can have 100 Serbian men doing the same thing? Last thing. We talk about economic justice, don't we? But let me just share something with you. I'm going to name some things and let's see who benefits from them. Percentages. I wasn't smart. I mean, I barely got out of public school and didn't do much better. But that being said, that top percent, Pastor Butcher, their income is about $10 million a year. Now, I'm going to name some things, and somebody help me count, my dear friend George Johnson. George, okay, the great wealthy people, they benefit from, true or false, airports and airport security. How about the Food and Drug Act? You see, because they have health care, and if they need some really expensive medication, their health care plan pays for it, or they can afford it for themselves. How about interstate commerce? Yeah. Who owns those big trucks, those corporations, right? On those federal highways under the Eisenhower administration? All of those things benefit them. How about our land-grant colleges? With those real wealthy people, they may hire somebody from Walsh College, but they probably hire somebody from Akron U that graduated because of a guaranteed student loan. So you see, the rules they're being a tad disingenuous. All of those things. So thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Next, Gary Goodman, then Herman Oden.
How you doing? Thanks for being here. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of history too, just so we're on the same page, maybe sort of in the form of talking points. Okay, so a little too loud? Okay. So, since, centuries ago, we had an economy of scarcity. Okay, we couldn't produce enough stuff, barely produce enough stuff to survive. Okay, food-wise, everything else. The beginning, around the Industrial Age, Civil War, we switched over to economies of abundance. Okay, so we had a completely different set of problems. And the capitalists recognized, the big capitalists recognized, late 1800s, early 1900s, they needed what you might call demand management or demand enhancement. In other words, they needed money from the government to support their profits because people wouldn't buy enough of their stuff to keep them going, to keep the factories going. And for one thing, they hadn't trained the population yet on buying a whole lot of useless bling. But also, they're just, people buy a pair of shoes and they wear it, until it wore out. So we got this consumerism, but anyhow, the corporations, they weren't shy about asking for that. They weren't shy about talking to their top government officials, the presidents, and asking for money. They wanted money they wanted to be able to sell stuff overseas. If Americans aren't going to buy it all, they needed lots of money spent. And that's part of the reason we created the Federal Reserve and got rid of the gold standard, so the government could spend all the money they needed on that. Same way for the Cold War. A big deal in the Cold War was we got to keep the factories going. We need money from the government. $12 trillion, stimulus, ongoing, to keep jobs. Well, they said, to create jobs, but they needed their profit margins propped up, okay? So there's a long history of demand management. And so we have no problem right now at all with scarce resources, as far as like we can't produce enough Metamucil for our older population, or we can't produce enough teachers for our children, or anything like that. Okay, or we can't produce enough food. We have plenty of food. We have an abundance of food. The only thing we're lacking right now is money. Okay, and last I checked, there's no dollar factories in China. There's nobody else, as a matter of fact, that creates dollars except the federal government. That's the only source of dollars, besides the banking system, which creates loans. Okay, 30 seconds here. So I'll keep it kind of short. If you look up a conversation between a man named Gulick and FDR on the Social Security website, you find out that there was never a need for Social Security taxes in the first place. Okay, we have a lot of need for Social Security spending for Americans, older Americans, to be taken care of in a manner that makes us proud to be Americans. Okay, but there's not really a need for the taxes, and there's really has been a need for federal taxes, according to Federal Reserve Chief Rummel, since 1946. Okay, taxes serve another purpose in terms of social reasons. Okay, but not because the government, federal government, needs revenue. Thank you very much.
Next, Herman Oden, and anyone else who wants to speak. Then we'll go to our panelists.
That is Herman Oden, but I have to be kind of careful this morning because I'm finding out the 1960s ancient history, and that's fascinating to me. I'm finding out that Victor Daniels he got to be on the police force because a suit was brought against Akron by one of our permanent attorneys, Attorney Palm. It just wouldn't volunteer everybody to run out and grab some black young men and put them on the police force. We didn't do that voluntarily. That's because we was forced. That means the government was forced to do what they should have been doing. Now, we meet here at St. Paul. I'm from the Coalition for a Safe Community. I might say that we are not doing very well. We are kind of not, well, we're doing things, but we are not having good results. But what I would like to say, there are many things that many of us feel that we already have our civil rights, and we already is just one step from the promised land because we have a black president. I want to tell you, our young men and women are still going to prison. We're still going down to the courts to try to make it so that they can, many of them is unjustly being incarcerated, about the hundreds and the thousands. We must do something about that. That is the jobs that they're creating for our young people, that the prison complex. And this is what we got to start working to cut down on. And so I would just impress upon all of us. We haven't got to the promised land yet. We still are struggling and trying to make this a safe community environment. And you can't have a safe community without jobs for our young people. And so thank you this morning.
Any other public speakers? We have one here. Please state your name and then.
Hello, my name is Andrea Smith, and I am currently running for Akron Public School Board. I would like to say that, kind of to piggyback on what Mr. Oden said about the prison, I've been doing some research about the school-to-prison pipeline, and it's not right that they're taking the third grade test scores of our children to find out how many prison cells they'll create. We need community benefits agreements in our communities. We also need to be working on the collateral sanctions that are placed on the felons so that they are able to get a job. Because like Malcolm X said, by any means necessary, people are going, if they don't have the necessary requirements, their necessary needs, food, shelter, they're going to do what they need to do to take care of their family, and unfortunately that's going to be as a result of violence. I think that we need to, someone earlier spoke about the grassroots movement and getting people active in voting. Well, that needs to start in the schools as well. Collaborating or getting the people, the students to understand the connection with economics and government and how that directly impacts our communities. I love my city, and I served 6 years in the military. I'm a graduate from the University of Akron, and I'm staying here because I want to see the city better. But we need to be focused on those things so that we can get the students that are graduating from Akron Public Schools to stay in our city so that they can boost the economy. But if we're not giving them a reason to stay, they're going to leave. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now our representatives have heard the people speak. Now it's their turn to comment. One little comment for the representatives that didn't show. You know, money is supposed to be speech. Maybe they didn't show today because they figured nobody would be speaking. I'd like to start with the representatives first. Ginger Baylor first, then we'll go to the Chris Couples, and then Beth Thames.
Hi, it's a pleasure to stand before you today because this is my community as well, and I'm certainly concerned about the things that you all are concerned about. However, I'm not here today to represent myself. I'm here to represent the Congresswoman and her passion and her concern for our community. Without looking at my notes or anything that they gave me to communicate to you guys, I can tell you that the Congresswoman is emphatic about Medicare, Medicaid, and everything that surrounds seniors. She is very supportive of where you stand on the issues as well. She's even, she spoke yesterday at the City Club in Cleveland, and I was telling the gentleman that I wish I had